Yes, everyone, it's good to have all of you right there. It is still Global Morning Weekend. Well, we just finished talking about the APC convention that happened yesterday. But then, the president was talking yesterday and he was talking about how his reforms are working. But then, there are some key sectors that we also need to look at. Recently, the president was in the United Kingdom, and we heard about every of the deal, the ones that had to do with the port and all of that. But then, have you thought about making our port, all right, to be up to standard with what we have internationally, the benefit? What level are we when it has to do with the modernization of our port? If these ports are being modernized, does it have impact on the economy? Because what every average Nigerian will want to talk about is improvement in our economy that will transcend to every part of Nigeria, including the local governments, the councils, where Nigerians can feel positive impact of this modernization of our ports. A lot of countries make money from the port. So today we want to look at the blue economy, and our concentration is on the impact of port modernization on Nigeria's economy. And I have a maritime expert join us. He's a captain and of course the CEO of DANLADI Foundation as we talk about this issue. Now the convention has heard what is next come 2027, and of course the port, the major commercial activities in Nigeria, how is it going to be faring from now until 2027? So I have Captain DANLADI joining us on the conversation this morning. It's good to have you join us on the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. Very good morning to you.
Yes, where do we get started from? Of course, what do you think about the economy generally before we begin to talk about the modernization of our port and how it's going to impact the economy? Where are we as far as the economy of this nation is concerned?
Okay, thank you very much for this important question. So there has been a lot of reforms to be able to address the economic situation of the country. And when you have a reform, it takes a while for you to get that result to major impact. It's not just recent. We have seen a lot of engagement that the president has been making when it comes to the economic situation of the country. When you also look at the recent global crisis that have to do with the Iran-Israel war, and you can see one of the reform sector that has to do with the petroleum deregulation of downstream sector, with the Dangote refinery today on stream. We are not suffering from this issue of lack of fuel supply in the country, which is very important. If you look at other countries, there has been issues of inadequate fuel supply because the Strait of Hormuz has been closed to shipping traffic. As you are aware, the Strait of Hormuz accommodate more than 20% of the global oil and gas. So with this tension between the Israel and the US and Iran, it's caused a lot of challenges when it comes to supply of oil. But in Nigeria today, the only thing that we just see the increase in fuel price, which is a global shock as a result of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. And we have also seen the president has been engaged in a lot of diplomatic engagement, a lot of reforms. He has been to different countries, signing one agreement to the other to be able to improve the country. So I strongly believe that we are in the right path and we are in the right direction. And the recent data that have been released, it shows that the inflation has reduced. So that's on the average, even though I'm not an economist, it's a general trend that's going on now. So,
all right, let's look at the port, because one of the biggest commercial hub, as far as I'm concerned, is the port. A lot happened there. All right, what is the state of our port in Nigeria right now? Because we need to know the state of the port before we even start talking about, well, modernization and impact on the economy, as a matter of fact?
Okay, so before I go into the port, in every organization and every institute, there are challenges.
Okay.
All right? There are challenges in every organization. That is not limited to port alone. It's limited to even the aviation sector and whatever sector you are, even in the media sector today. So, but I'll dive into ports. When it comes to ports, ports are the gateway to nation's economy. So they are the cash cow. More than 90% of the trade that comes in and out of Nigeria is via the port system. So port have a very crucial role. And then if you look, we have challenges in the port. And those challenges have to do with the aging of the quays. Some of the ports were built as far as 1913, some 1977. So there has been issue of aging, and when an infrastructure is aged, you tend to look at to handle the volume of cargo, it takes time. What it translated is simply means that the average waiting time of the ships will increase and the cargo dwell time will increase. However, in the past, there has been significant efforts when you look at the pre-port concession. So I'll take you back. Before the port concessions of the port reforms of 2003, there has been challenges which have to do with the long dwell time of cargo, long waiting time. Sometimes ships have to wait for months and for weeks to load and discharge cargo. There has also been the issue of multiplicity of government agencies in the port, whereas you have duplication of roles that have been causing a lot of administrative bottleneck. And at that time, Nigerian ports were one of the most expensive ports in West Africa. So in 2003, there was a study that was carried out through the federal government by the Royal Haskoning Studies. So that study now, they recommended the port reforms and port concessions because the ports then were fully owned and managed by the government. So they adopted what we call the landlord port administration model, where the government oversees and we have the private terminal operators, which are the concessionaires that manage most of the ports. But after that, we have seen improvement. We see improvement when it comes to increase in cargo throughput, investment in infrastructure by most of these terminal operators, which has resulted in improved efficiency. So, but over time, we have also seen that most of the cargo handling equipment, it's not like they are not efficient, but some of them are getting obsolete, some of them are getting old. You can see the evidence from the congestion leading to Apapa Port. However, significant effort has also been made by the government. We look at this administration, what have they done? This is the first time we're having a dedicated ministry, which is called the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. And this ministry is dedicated solely for the maritime activities, unlike in the past, where you have the Ministry of Transport and the port is under the Ministry of Transport. And now you have the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. And they have a 10-year roadmap, which was developed and approved by the Federal Executive Council to address most of the challenges of the blue economy and to also harness into the potential of the blue economy. If you look at the country today, we have a coastline of over 853 kilometers. And also we have over 10,000 kilometers of navigable waters, inland waterways. So if we are able to harness into this potential, there's a huge resources there. So the federal government deem it fit, this administration deem it fit that, okay, we need to harness into this potential. So we have now the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. We have the National Policy of Marine and Blue Economy, which is a 10-year roadmap, which is very important. And one of the significant effort that has been made is to be able to address the issue of port digitalization. There has been challenges that has to do with digitalization, like I mentioned earlier, multiplicity of agencies in port. So now the maritime single window system is going to address most of those challenges, whereas the shipper, the agent, and they will submit document in a single platform and everybody will access. So you are not supposed to take this document from one table to the other, from one agency to the other. So what does that mean? It means it's going to improve efficiency. So above all, there has been challenges, like I mentioned, aging of the equipment, multiplicity of government agencies, slow adoption of digitalization, which the maritime single window system is also going to address. And most of these challenges are the ones that yield the issue of congestion you see in and out of port, because congestion alone is not a challenge, but it's an outcome of a challenge. If cargoes are not being cleared in time, what happens? The trucks will keep lining up, so that is why you have such congestion. So those are some of the issues, and I strongly believe that the government are doing more to address most of these challenges.
Yes, that's the question I wanted to ask, because a problem known, they said, is half solved. Well, the APC had their convention yesterday, and of course, the president was so proud of the reforms. I'm glad that you're talking about the fact that the marine economy, they now have their own ministry, all right, and it's a welcome development. Now, we've looked at the challenges. Are there opportunities? What are the things that the government is supposed to be looking at and say, oh, there are opportunities in the port, at the port, there are opportunities. These are what we need to do to harness these opportunities. Are there opportunities?
Okay, before I go into the opportunities, you can see since this administration they came on board, they have done a lot. I've mentioned about the creation of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. And last year, Nigeria was elected into the IMO Category C, which is huge. You know, it simply means that we have a voice when it comes to maritime cooperation.
What necessitated that? Is it the government or the...
It's the government efforts.
Okay, the government
effort. And also, if you look at the maritime security architecture in the Gulf of Guinea, in the past 4 years, we have not recorded a single piracy issue. That's a huge step. It simply means a lot of reforms have been done, and there has been a lot of diplomatic engagement prior to Nigeria being elected in the IMO Category C, which is very important. Now we have a seat in the International Maritime Organization, and our voice will be heard. This is part of the reforms also ongoing now. Now, recently, last 2 weeks, our president visited the United Kingdom, and there was a deal about the 746 million pounds to upgrade the infrastructure in our port, which is huge. For me, this goes more beyond the diplomatic engagement. It's a huge economic milestone for us as a country when it comes to port modernization, because we are going to achieve a lot. It's going to create a lot of opportunities when it comes to employment, economic development, economic growth. It's also going to induce other sectors like the manufacturing sector, the agricultural sector, and it's going to drastically reduce unemployment issues that we've been having. So I strongly believe that with all these reforms, with the efforts that the president is being put, I believe that we are going to be a global hub when it comes to the country. Before then, there has been effort also to modernize our ports to the state-of-the-art ports. I've also mentioned about the maritime single window system that will soon be launched. So I think a lot has been done, and the government has done so much. So we also have to appreciate the effort, and I strongly believe that we are going to yield all these reforms sooner or later.
You know, while you were talking about the deal between Nigeria and the United Kingdom just now, you know, some persons were not so comfortable with that, because, you know, there is this perception that Nigerians have when it comes to deal like this. They think of, well, these people just want to come and rip us. The government is just taking loan, entering deals and all of that. You know, and one other very important thing that we must talk about is the implementation. You know, most times we've heard money's being taken and all of that. With what they tell Nigerians is, this is what we are going to do. But at the end of the day, you see those things not being done. As it is right now, I know you're not part of the government, as a matter of fact, yes. But as an expert, what would be your proposal? How do you want these things to be done? Because there are key areas. If you want to talk about modernizing, all right, our port, there are key areas that you may feel, okay, first of all, this is the area to be dealt with so that we can have this. This is the area that we need to deal with so that we can be of international standard and all of that. So what do you think? What's your proposition?
Okay, when it comes to this 746 million pounds agreement for port modernization, I strongly believe that it's going to go a long way. And I believe that we have the people who are capable of implementing, because this is the first time in decades that we have had this opportunity to modernize and upgrade our port. So we should not have any negative impact. But the most important thing is, once this is done right, it's going to create a lot of opportunities in the future. But other countries have similar initiatives. If you go to China today, there's a Road and Belt initiative for port development, the Dubai, the DP World initiative. So it's huge. The potential is huge. What I see, I strongly believe that this port modernization is going to uplift Nigerian status when it comes to a global maritime hub. And I'll take you back now. If this port modernization is going to reduce unemployment in 3 different ways.
Okay.
First, there's direct, there's indirect, and there's induced impact. So in the short run, it's going to employ people when it comes to logistics, engineering, those that will be working in the ports. You have people in engineering, electrical, mechanical that will be working in those ports. So it's going to create a short-term employment. Now, in the long time, it's going to induce, if the ports are modernized, you have the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sectors that rely on just-in-time materials. It's going to induce those sectors, because those sectors mostly they rely on import and export for their production and also exporting their finishing goods. So it's going to induce those sectors, and those sectors are going to employ people. Now, the third one, I talk about the induced impact. When the port activities are booming, what happens? A truck driver in Jos or in Aba is going to get employed, because he's going to move containers from Lagos to Aba or containers to Kaduna. That is an induced impact. Now, let's look at the real estate. We are talking about port cities. Because the port is being modernized, there will be a lot of people migrating to those cities. What happened? They are going to contribute to the economic development of those cities. And then the real estate business in those cities is going to expand. And the real estate business, they are going to employ people that will be engaged in construction. Why? It's because of the port modernization. That is an induced impact. Now, when we talk of ports, ships are coming in and out of ports. Most of those ships need stores, they need spares, they need bunkers to run their engines. And then what happened? The ship chandlers, the small SMEs, they are going to get employment by being able to supply stores in and out to those ships, which is very important. So if you look at the 746 million deals, it's huge when it comes to reducing the unemployment challenges we're having. Now, let's look at the economic development. Now, those workers that are being worked in the port, they are being paid salary, right? And they spend those salary and they contribute to the economic development of the country. Now, when the ship comes in and out of port, they pay port charges, they pay custom clearance, custom duty. It's going to generate revenue, right? Now, the port now is going to become a regional hub. Why do I mean a regional hub? Goods and services that are being born for Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, the landlocked countries, will be coming through Nigerian ports. And then we'll move it. So it's going to be a hub for West Africa. Now, with the global tension in the Middle East, there has been a lot of changes in the trading pattern, where ships have to reroute now via the Cape of Good Hope. What does it mean? Nigeria is strategically located in a very good maritime route, which is the Atlantic route, which is strategically located. Those ships that are rerouting, what does it mean? It means that their transit time is going to increase. They have to stop on the way to get stores and bunkers. So Nigeria now will become a hub, a regional hub.
Okay, so they can actually stop over to do what
they have to take bunkers, to take fuel, because bunkers are fuel they burn. So they have to stop over to refuel. It means that somebody who is supplying bunkers in Nigeria is getting also employment opportunity, because he has people that he employed. So they are also is generating revenue also for the government, which is important. So for me, it's going to go a long way when it comes to economic development. Now, port modernization is going to induce the connectivity, because modernization of port alone is not enough. You must have the infrastructure to be able to move these goods from ports to the final consumer. So it's going to induce the construction of rail, because we will have a rail line linking the ports maybe to the dry port or to the final consumer. We are going to also modernize our roads, which I strongly believe is among the initiatives for this 746 million pounds deals, which is important. Then now you look at the agricultural industry. Nigeria is an agricultural export-oriented country. We have a lot of goods that we'll be able to export. So by modernizing our port, we are going to expand our export. And with this 746 million pounds deal, what does it mean? It sent a signal to other investors that people have confidence, other countries have confidence in us at Nigeria. So we'll have more investors coming to invest. It's going to attract a lot of FIDs. FDI is foreign direct investment in the country. Now, let's also have a look on the knowledge and skill transfer when it comes to ITC. Through port modernization, we are going to train people on the modern way of port operations. It means that we are transferring these skills to local content, and we don't have to rely on foreign skills for our operation. So it's huge. The potential there is huge.
I actually wanted to ask about that, but now you're talking about it. That is the issue of manpower. You know, manpower is very important. You've talked about the advantage and all of that. But then to have people who can carry out these activities, because these are different activities, do you think Nigerians will be capable of doing all of this, or there is need for expatriate? Because most times, if you want to talk about development in Africa, most things that even if we have people that can do it here, there is this belief that an expatriate or maybe a white person will do it better. What do you think of that perception as it has to do with port modernization in Nigeria?
For me, we are capable of doing it. Nigerians are capable, yes. Nigerians are capable. We are capable, and I strongly believe the ports now, we still have modern cargo handling facilities in our ports. Who are the people operating it? They are also Nigerians. We have Nigerians operating advanced crane. Not even in Nigeria. If you go to other countries, you still find Nigeria in ports. They are working in those ports. So we have a lot of skilled Nigerians. So when it comes to operation of port facilities, we have extremely brilliant Nigerians when it comes to port management, when it comes to cargo agencies, when it comes to ship chandling. I don't think we have any problem, in my opinion.
Including sailors?
Well, we have, I'm a mariner, I'm a master mariner, I'm a Nigerian, and we have a lot of master mariners, we have a lot of seafarers. Not only seafarers, we have experienced and world-class seafarers. Nigerian seafarers are well experienced, they are world-class. Where
are they trained? Abroad?
We start from Maritime Academy of Nigeria, or then a lot we get our certificate of competencies abroad. And now we are also issuing certificate of competency in Nigeria.
Right now?
Yes. Nigeria is issuing certificate of competency. I've mentioned that we have been elected into IMO category C. That is a huge step. Our voice is being heard. When there's an amendment when it comes to Maritime Convention, Nigeria is sitting in that table.
But now, let's look at the timeline, all right, for the implementation of all of this. If you want to say, okay, at what point can you say, all right, this port is modernized already and there is going to be a lot of positive impact into the economy? At what point?
You know, port modernization is not something that just takes place in a day or 2 days or in a week. It's not like you are constructing a 3-story building or you are trying to build an estate. No, it takes time, right? It's in phases. You can finish this phase, commission this phase, and start working on this phase, yield impact, and it continues. It's something that will be ongoing. For me, I've not seen the implementation plan, but based on my knowledge and my experience, When it comes to port modernization, it's being done in phases. And while it's being done in phases, the port activities are picking up. And you'll begin to see the impact. You'll begin to see impact. For instance, now port modernization have to not only about infrastructure, it also have to do with dredging of the channels. What does that mean? It means that when you dredge channels, large ships will be able to come in and out of our ports, meaning that we are going to see increase in cargo throughput. If you look at the statistics that have been published by the Nigerian Port Authority this year, we have seen a surge in cargo throughput coming in and out of the country. And this is as a result of the reforms that have taken place between when President Tinubu came into government. So there have been a lot of reforms, like I told you, the National Policy on Marine and Blue Economy. You can see the increase in cargo throughput. It means something has been done. And now, with the maritime single window system, we have a lot of seamless operation. You know, it's going to reduce a lot of administrative bottlenecks, a lot of administrative hurdles. So digitalization is also part of port modernization. So port modernization doesn't also have to do only construction. It doesn't have to do with only dredging of channels, buying advanced cargo equipment. Digitalization also is a key factor when it comes to port modernization. Linking the port to the hinterland, that is constructing rail, is also part of port modernization. So when it comes to port modernization, you begin to yield some positive impact as soon as the modernization projects commence.
Let's for me, whenever I talk, I look at the average Nigerians. You know, a lot of people, if you want to talk about, I want to work in an oil company, I want to work here, I want to work. It's like I'm feeling like Nigerians, the average Nigerians, don't have good orientation about what happened around the blue economy. So what's the level of orientation? How can people know that, yes, I can actually have a career here, I can actually do this here? Because that's one sector that a lot of people who have the foreknowledge are making a lot of money. But you see people write JAMB today. How many people are applying to the schools that will lead them there? Do they even know? Because, I want to go to ABU, I want to go to Unilag, I want to go to Uniport. What are you going to study? Okay, I want to study law, I want to study medicine. But then the orientation, our people seem not to have that orientation, especially the average Nigerians. So can we have a little enlightenment as it has to do with finding a pathway, all right, in the blue economy as an average Nigerians? I know people, today is Saturday, so people, secondary school, adults, parents are listening right now, so that at least people can know, I can find a pathway here. If you tell some people now, you want to become a sailor or maybe an expert mariner or whatever, they will not even know, how do I get there? Is it not for Oyibo people and all of that? That's what I was even asking, if Nigerians are actually doing all of this. So how can we get the orientation? Give us a little orientation.
Okay, that's a very important question. And before I go into the orientation, it's very important for me to explain, we talk about ports now, how ports benefit a common man.
Okay.
Right? When it comes to inefficiency in ports, when a port is not efficient, what happens? It takes time to clear goods and services. The goods stays longer in ports. What happens? You pay demurrage, you pay extra port charges in ports. And what happened? These extra port charges are being translated into the final cost of goods and services that has an impact on the final consumer. Now, if our ports are being modernized, the average waiting time of the ship will reduce. The average cargo dwelling time of ships will reduce. What it means that the cost of logistics will also reduce, and it's going to translate into the final consumer, meaning that the cost of goods and services will also reduce. That's what I wanted to explain first when it comes to ports, so that every Nigerian will feel that.
Because you do know that majority of these business people, what they'll tell you is, Do you know the cost of bringing this thing from abroad?
Yes.
Clearing, cost of this, and people run away and they sell this thing very, very expensive to Nigerians.
So now let's talk about a career, which is very important, and I also want to encourage a lot of Nigerians, especially the young school leavers, to consider a seagoing career. So we have different sectors when it comes to blue economy. I will briefly talk about the shipping sector. That means the mariners. So for you to work on the ship, there are different departments. There's a deck department, there's an engine department, and there's also the catering department. The deck department, which are the navigators and the cargo handling, is being headed by the captain. You have the chief officer, the second officer, the third officer, and then you might have a trainee like cadets. They are more like the apprentice. And you have the deck ratings that support these officers in their day-to-day activities, which are the ABs, the bosuns.
Let me comment. Apprentice. I thought when you
like cadets.
Yes.
Just in a layman term. That
okay, but they must have
training
gone
officers.
through. Okay, they must have gone through a
the school. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just explaining.
Okay. I thought somebody can just apply and say, please, I want to.
I will take you back to that. Yeah.
Okay.
So now you have the engine department, which is being headed by the chief engineer. You have the second engineer. You have the third engineer, the fourth engineer, and also the trainee engineers. And you have the engine rating that the oilers that support the operations. You have also the catering department, which is more like the hotel servicing department. You might have a chief cook, second cook, and also the mess boys. Now, for you to be a deck officer or engineering officer, as a young school leaver, normally the requirement, you have 5 credits, including English and Maths. Then you apply to either Maritime Academy of Nigeria, Oron, or Federal School of Oceanography in Lagos. We also have Chaki Maritime. We have different maritime schools. So you apply for those schools for your pre-C, which is either you are doing a national diploma or you are doing a first degree in marine operation. After that, you need to go back to C to gain experience, which is the 18-month C time. That is where the trainee that I mentioned earlier comes into play. So you serve as a trainee on board the ship to gain all the necessary skills and experience. During that period, you will be exposed to navigation, cargo operations, you will be exposed to weather routine, you will learn all the operations that have been taking place on board the ship. After all, you will return back to school and sit for the exam that we say certificate of competency. When you passed your examination, is in 2 phases. There's oral and written exams, and then you will need to do some safety courses also that will complement those certifications. You have to be medically fit. Thereafter, you go back on board the ship as third officer. Then you'll be promoted to second officer. After you have the necessary C experience, you can go back and sit for either your achievement certificate of competency or second engineer certificate of competency for engineers. Once you sit for those exams, it's also in 2 phases, oral and written. And you pass that exams, you return back to C and you'll be promoted to either chief officer or second engineer. So after you also have a necessary C experience, about 12 to 18 months, you return back to the school again to also sit for another certificate of competency. For the deck, is called the Master Class 1 or the Master Mariner, and for the engineer, it's called the Chief Engineer Certificate of Competency, which is crucial. So once you have those certificate of competency and then the company have the available vacancy, you will either be promoted to a captain or as a chief engineer, which you have a lot of responsibility of taking charge of the vessel. So for the catering services department, their hotel servicing department, they have catering courses that they take that give them all the necessary skills and prerequisites to become messman, second cook, and chief cook. That is for shipboard officers. So let's quickly look at the ports themselves. In port, is more of management. So even if you are applying to those schools, there are different courses: maritime management, maritime business studies. So you can study it, and when you graduate, you can work in port as a port administrator, you can work as an agent, you can work as a port captain, with experience, which is very important. Now, let's also look at another phase. There are naval architects, people that design those ships. You can also study naval architecture and be involved in the designing of ships, which is important. There are people also that study fisheries and aquatic. So they deal with whatever is in the subsea. We also have people that study subsea.
These are courses that you say, how person go to study fishery?
Exactly.
You know, people, that's the reason this orientation is very important.
Yes, so we need people. You look at the marine and blue economy, the sector is huge. You are not only talking about shipping and seafaring, you are also talking about harnessing into the potentials of marine and blue economy. We have to look into the wind power system, which is important. You also have to look at into aspect of fisheries, which is important.
Fisheries.
Yes, you also have to look at into aspect of inland waterways. So the potential is there. So there are a lot of courses. So for me as an advocate for change when it comes to women development, I encourage a lot of women when it comes to STEM education. That is why in my organization, my charity organization, I support STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because I believe that is a basic foundation for them to start.
Yes, so this career is strictly for, okay, no, you talk about...
It's not strictly for start. Yes, no, it's not.
Okay.
You as an art student, you can go into marine and blue economy. You can be a port manager, you can be a ship
But you can't work in the ship.
Some ships have what they call administrative officers in some ships and some company by company basis. So if you want to work on the ship as a deck officer, those are the requirements I mentioned, or as an engineering officer. If you want to work in ports, then if you look at the port is huge. There are people who drive the cranes, there are people who operate the RTGs. You will also need most of them. When you look at also the ports, there are warehousing supervisors, warehousing managers. So there you can study logistics and supply chain. So the potential is
almost every discipline.
Every discipline is there. So it's huge.
A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah, so it's very important. And
some people even think you need to go school abroad before you can even work in the maritime system.
Not at all.
Oh, all right, that's quite interesting. Our time is almost up, but then can we look at one other aspect? We've talked about government support, but do you think government support is enough? Look at what we're talking about now. All right, there needs to be encouragement. If not that you're saying this now, a lot of people will not know that with any discipline. I even read about fishery and aquatic adults. You know, back then in school, when you hear someone studying fishery, you say, how will somebody come and study fishery in school? But we're getting to know now that this is a highly placed discipline as it has to do with the blue economy. So now, what do you think the government needs to do more? Number one, to encourage people who are already in the system and people who want to come into the system. What do you think the government needs to do? Because if we're talking about the government, like the APC just had their convention yesterday, and people came from all local government delegates from here and there. A lot of people are rushing into politics, including, I'm just telling one of my colleagues that I saw some very young boys, you know, people that I know. People are abandoning everything to go into politics when there are other opportunities. What do you think the society and the government can do to make people have this foreknowledge that you must not be dependent on politics and maybe the civil service job alone?
Okay, that's an important question. If you look at the Nigerian demography, more than 70% of Nigerian population is below the age of 30. So that's a huge blessing. And if we are able to leverage on this population, I strongly believe that we are going to be top. We are already giant of Africa, so we are going to be the giant of the world now. So that's very important. I strongly believe also the government alone cannot do it all. You know, the private sector have a role to play, the non-governmental organizations, the CSO, each and every one of us have a role to play when it comes to the society today. When it comes to the marine and blue economy, like you mentioned, you have a number of people that are going to politics. I believe when you are choosing your career, it's about choice, and some people have looked at it that the politics is where they also want to play and their voice will be heard. Recently, we have also been an advocate for youth to actively participate in politics, so that these youths that are actively participating in politics, they can be able to bring changes when it comes to also the marine and blue economy we are talking today. So I will continue to encourage youth to participate in politics so that their voice will be heard. I will continue to encourage our youth to be involved when it comes to our decision making, both at the local and grassroots level, which is important. Because if you don't have these youth that are participating in politics today, how can you be able to bring in changes tomorrow? So in my opinion, I will encourage more youth to go into politics. That is one. Then I will also encourage our youth also to harness into the potential of marine and blue economy. How do we do? We need to raise awareness. Now we are raising awareness to the media houses, seminars. I've seen a lot of open days, career days have been held. The government have done a lot. I'll take you back. There's a program they are doing about the Nigerian Seafarers Development Program, where they recruit young seafarers, orient them and take them abroad. And that's why we have seen a surge in the number of seafarers today, even though we need more seafarers, which is important. Now, we need to create awareness. It's not about training the seafarers alone. We need to provide them with sea time, which has been a challenge. Because if you just study in the university or in the academy without all the necessary sea experience, it means that you cannot be able to sit for your certificate of competency examination, and you cannot be able to work as an officer on board a ship. So the government alone cannot do that. So the private sectors that have ships, they can be able to support these young graduates from the academy to provide them with a sea service so that they can be able to progress through their careers. If you look at some countries today, like the Philippines, the Indians, they are the major suppliers of seafarers in the world. And what happened? They still remit back most of this money to develop their countries. So I strongly believe that with this national policy of marine and blue economy that has been approved by the National Executive Council, Nigeria in the future will definitely be a major supplier of seafarers with the right policies in place, which I believe is doable and will do it, because we have the government that has shown the political will. And I strongly believe that we are going to get there. Another aspect is to encourage female participation when it comes to shipping. The number of women participation in shipping is very, very low. So we need to raise awareness. We need to increase women participation when it comes to shipping. And that participation is very important. The foundation for female participation in shipping is STEM education at the primary level. The most important thing, you need to start them young. If you also look at the STEM participation today, the number of females in STEM participation is very low. So awareness is very important. The government alone cannot create that awareness, but the religious leaders, traditional leaders, non-governmental organizations, and all of us have a significant role to play to raise awareness about the number of low participation of females when it comes to STEM. The most important aspect is also to be able to address the challenges of out-of-school children, to be able to bring back these out-of-school children back to classrooms so that they can be able to have hope of also growing to become seafarers tomorrow. So I've seen a lot of significant progress have been made in the country. The government, the non-governmental organization have been raising awareness. They have a lot of campaigns going back to bring back children back to the classroom, which is important because that is the foundation. You know, once the foundation is solid, that's it. So it's very, very important and is very, very crucial. And to the seafarers themselves and the aspiring seafarers, I strongly believe that discipline is very important. You must be focused. You must know what you want in life. So when you are focused, when you know what you want, you know the world will celebrate you. That's very important. So you have to be focused. You have to be dedicated in your duties. You have to learn the skills as much as you can so that when you are a skilled seafarer, you will not lack jobs. People will look for you. So competency is very important, discipline is very important, and if you also possess the right attitude, because sometimes you might possess all the necessary competencies, you might possess all the necessary skills, but if you lack the right attitude to work, it's another challenge. So that's my advice for the young people who want to go into the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. They should be steadfast, they should be disciplined, they should be focused. Nigerians have always been making names, and I strongly believe that we will get there. If you go to any sector today, Nigerians are doing remarkably well. If you go to Forbes today, you go to Guinness Book of Records, Nigerians are always on top of the chart. So if Nigerians can do it, your background does not matter, you can also be able to do it.
I think I like that part. Your background does not matter. So if you can write JAMB from that your community, from that your village, because I've seen a lot of people ask me questions. What course do I put in? What do I apply for? What should be my second choice and all of that, university, where to go to? This is an opportunity, all right? As you're thinking of your career path, this is an opportunity. Finally, in the next 10 years, looking at this blueprint now, the deal between Nigeria and UK, the bid and the intention to modernize our ports so that we can have positive impact, all right, as it has to do with our economy. In the next 10 to 15, 20 years, what do you think of the blue economy, especially our port system in Nigeria? What's your projection? Where do you think we can be looking at what we have on ground?
Okay, so in the next 10 to 15 years, I strongly believe that with this commitment that we are having now and all the reforms, all the deals that we have signed, Nigeria will be a global maritime hub.
Wow.
And I see us moving from category C of IMO to category B, which are countries with the largest interest in shipping. And fleet. I see us expanding our fleet. I see Nigeria having a fleet of its own that is going to compete globally because we have the right political will. Now we have the national policy of marine and blue economy, the 10 years roadmap. So if you have a roadmap, you can be able to achieve whatever you want to achieve with the right people in place, which is important. So I strongly believe that in the next 10 to 15 years, we are going to be a global maritime hub.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, this is the size of the conversation for this morning. I want to say a very big thank you to you for joining us on Global Morning Weekend today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
And congratulations to you for the dedication. Congratulations in advance for the dedication of your baby tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. This is the size of the conversation for the Global Morning today. More conversations still coming on your way. Stay with us. After this break, we'll return again, and it's going to be another wonderful moment.